Well, the social inequity part of the equation was a big deal when we were in that garbage dump, for sure, because as bad as it sounds, it's actually kind of it's a good thing when that happens from a making film perspective. As in District 9, the shacks that the aliens lived in the movie, they were forcibly being evicted, and their shacks were the government wanted them. And in the area that we actually filmed that movie in, the exact same thing was happening. Residents were being forcibly moved from those shacks, and government RDP housing was going to be put in there. And so they were being taken from their homes, in a sense. And those themes resonated in District 9. And in Elysium, there, as bad as it is, bringing this kind of, this sort of first world kind of wealth entity into an area that's that impoverished. The good part about that, in terms of theme, is that we had a crashed Bugatti spaceship in a slum that tied the themes of the film together in the most visual, real, tangible way that you could. The negative part is that there's people in there that are living in abject poverty, and we're walking around like living the high life, which isn't great. But we tried to do a few things for the community in there, and you try to have a good dialogue with them, and there were a few charities. One of them was actually started by the security guys to go and give stuff to a lot of the kids that lived in the area. There's actually 2,500 people that live in the dump, which is pretty bizarre. But yeah, it's on films like this, it's a constant battle. But this isn't nearly as important as war journalism, but it's the same kind of idea. It's like, on one hand, you could be helping the person, or you could be taking a photo. It's a similar kind of concept.
The first thing that Neill said to me when we met, years ago, to talk about this movie was, he talked about growing up in a third world country and moving to a first world country because he emigrated to Vancouver to Canada when he was 18. And he said in that experience of seeing one way of living and then being exposed to this completely different way, as a young man, completely shaped who he was. And those themes all get worked out in his work. And he goes, I just happen to love science fiction, so that's how it gets expressed. But those ideas are certainly kind of prominent in the first two movies that he's made, and they're both really great.
And I feel that Wagner did Elite Squad and I did City of God, and I think the massive difference, about making a film, shooting in places like that, is that I feel that the whole crew get an idea of how great it is to tell this story from there, not with a point of view from the outside, but having inside. And I feel that Neill had that in his mind, and everyone just embraced it, just like you guys embraced, real shit, on the face. But I feel that going with what Matt said, it brings a lot to the film. Like City of God was all made like District 9 inside a favela in Rio, not in City of God, but in a similar one. And it makes a completely different, and on the Elite Squad as well, right? Yeah. So I think that brings to the screen, and I think it brings to the audience how real it is. It's not a set made in Vancouver trying to match up with what Mexico City is.
And also that, for Wagner and Elysium, it's Brazil, and for Diego, it's Mexico, and then for Charles, it's South Africa. They're all quite particular countries in the sense that they are, other than India, Russia, and China, there are countries that have extreme wealth discrepancy. It's not. And that is important to the theme too. Like all the three guys at the end of the table there will absolutely understand between Palenque to the dump that we were in, or parts of Rio to the favelas. In my personal opinion, I think you're going to just see that get worse and worse. No matter how hard we seem to try to change it, it just seems to be human nature.